As difficult as this might be for a lot of people to hear, I have to say this. I am announcing my semi retirement from doing this channel. Over the past 15 and a half years, I have pushed very, very hard to do what I do to a level that nobody else even comes close to. I have consistently made videos every every for 14 years. I made videos every day. Every day for almost a decade and a half. And the truth is, I can't do it anymore. I'm just too tired. For these 15 years, 15 and a half years, whatever, I've gone on despite my failing health. I've never talked about exactly how bad my health really is, because I've never wanted to play that social justice warrior oppression Olympics nonsense. I've never talked about how bad my mental health actually is, because I didn't want anything to be about that, because it was never about that. It was about the news. It was never about me, which is why I tried to keep myself out of it as much as possible. But unfortunately, the internet being the internet, that's not always possible. I've never said publicly that mostly I'm not even proletarian. I'm lumpen proletarian. Technically speaking, I am disabled. But I've never breathed a word about it. I have never tried to make myself out to be someone that you have to feel sorry for. I have never weaponized any part of me against people. I've never weaponized my sexual minority orientation. I've never weaponized the fact that I'm disabled. I've never talked about my extremely bad mental health, because none of it was relevant to what I was saying. And you look at the talking heads that exist today in our circles, that's all they do. It's a goddamn pity party. And most of them are rich kids running around pretending to be proletarian, coming literally from rich families in Beverly Hills, or even rich families in Canada, pretending to be serfs or being strong men who identify as reactionary leaders of history. I'm not. I come from about as low as I could possibly be without actually being homeless. My family has never meant anything. In fact, I'm 2 generations away from poor white trash, if you want to use that term. And at no point have I ever weaponized that against anyone or anything. Because it's not what I do. I have been trying all these years to try to push forward our ideology the best I can, because other people don't want to do it. There's very few people in the Marxist community that have even tried. Too many of them are still thinking that this is still 1919. So many of them never even saw the 19th century. The great irony of that. It doesn't take a genius to figure out. It only takes someone who's honest to admit that revolution in the advanced countries, or what we now call the first world countries, has never worked. It has never even come close. The closest anyone has ever come is the Black Panthers, and you saw what happened to them. Face it, there's not going to be a grand proletarian revolution in the first world, you know that. And every one of the people who have tried to destroy my life over the past 15 years know that's not going to happen. Why do you think Maupin has suddenly sold out and become a fascist? Because he knows a proletarian revolution isn't happening. He knows that. Rather than reorientating his Marxism, he chose another path. I tried to offer something new. I tried to offer third worldism and practically became the face of third worldism in the process. Something that I didn't invent. I like to think that I've made significant contributions to it. Much along the lines that Prairie Fire, the person I learned third worldism from, also did. Maybe you could argue that his contributions were even better than mine. Probably. When the ideology originated from the "it's always right to rebel" board, I didn't know anything. I came along much after. The idea existed as a vague cohesion of ideas, and I've tried the best that I can with what limited skills and limited education that I have. Hey, and you know what? I've never said this publicly. I'm a high school dropout. I never actually finished high school. The problem being that I can't do math. I can do English, I can do philosophy, I can do lunch, and no, I couldn't really do gym. I sucked at gym. Did really good at religion, despite being an atheist at the time. But I can't do the math. And math is I've always had a learning disability when it comes to math. But despite that, I've managed to acquire information that is well beyond my level of formal education. Because if anything hateful you ever want to say about me, stupid is not one of them. And I've tried my best to try to push this ideology forward as much as I can. But the simple truth is that first world Marxists just don't want to hear it. They literally want to just keep doing the same thing that has always failed. Yeah, and I could say, definition of insanity, blah, blah, blah. No. In our community, that's not the definition of insanity. It's the definition of a reaction. The problem with Marxism today isn't revisionism. Okay, it's dogmatism. It's the refusal to change. It is the refusal to acknowledge that the world has moved beyond the 1960s. It is to continually worship leaders instead of examining their ideas. And you know exactly who I'm talking about. The people who know more about the personal lives of individual leaders than they do the ideologies they espoused, or the lack of an ideology that they espoused. Look at Gonzaloists. They could tell you damn well everything that ever happened in that man's life. But could they ever cohesively understand the ideas that he worked upon? No. Gonzalo never contributed anything to Marxist theory. He did, however, prove the universality of People's War. Maoism was synthesized by Lin Biao. before there was a Chairman Gonzalo to speak of. And nobody wants to go beyond that. Everybody has, just utterly has to stick to some idea which has been done and tried and no longer works. At one time did. The fact today that anybody is still a Trotskyist is almost mind-blowing. What has that ever accomplished? It has done nothing but try to tear people down. Not people, it's actually tried to tear down countries and tear down ideologies. It's not to say that Trotsky hasn't had some good writings. Proletarian Art and Culture is a good one. But that's where we are today. This whole community only does two things. And I'm talking about specifically the online community. And the mainstream, well, as mainstream as Marxist parties get. They don't do anything but cheerlead the DSA and wreck other people. They will spend more time trying to tear other people down than trying to build themselves up. And I've spent these 15, almost 16 years trying to do the opposite. Trying to build up this idea rather than simply go as someone going out and acting like a jackass in front of a camera for views. Or some Richie Rich pretending to be proletarian, sheepdogging everybody into the DSA. Or the Democrat Party. Remember, vote blue no matter who. Because I was trying to find something that rhymes with no matter who, but says stupid, but I couldn't think of it. And that's what it is. From ContraPoints to the Serfs to Vosh to Caleb Maupin to everyone else. People who've been given far more than they ever should have. Who have been given more than they ever should have. Who haven't even done a tenth of the amount of work that I have. And that's fine. I don't need the money. I don't need the adulation. Well, actually, yeah, I really could use the money, but I don't need it. That's not what it's about. It's about getting the message. It's about being heard. And nobody wants to hear it. Rather than listening to anything that I have ever said about theory and trying to understand why it is that we continually fail at the thing that we're supposed to do, everybody has just been trying to scream transphobe. You remember when a couple of years ago, I was the biggest homophobe on the face of the earth? You know, even though I'm actually gay. You remember when Rame not only claimed that I was transphobic and everybody, like the idiotic little sheep that they are, continued to repeat that, despite the fact that I'm very closely allied to people who are trans. And no one ever presented a single argument that I was ever transphobic other than the fact that I don't like Anarcho-Pack, that phony piece of human garbage. That plagiarist piece of shit. Thankfully, he's never plagiarized any of my work. Just Google Anarcho-Pack plagiarism and you'll see more than enough there. These self-pitying pieces of shit who've done nothing but walk around, say, oh, poor me, I'm this, I'm that, and who talk more about their own fucking pathetic egos than anything that actually matters. Look at ContraPoints. DSA, Democrat Party sheepdog. What? Makes about $120,000 a year off Patreon. Spends it on nothing more than narcissistic cosmetic surgeries, designer clothes, and a whole bunch of other frivolous bourgeois crap. I'll bet you one piece of clothing owned by ContraPoints is more expensive than everything I own combined. But I'm the one who got criticized for being bourgeois for wearing a suit. A suit off the rack at fucking Walmart. That was one I got in the early 2010s. And for what? What did that accomplish? Nothing. In 2013, I predicted everything that would happen to Bitcoin in a book. Copy of it's over there. My Utopian Capitalism book. I called everything that would happen. Did I have some great insight that allowed me to be so good as to be able to predict? No. I just understand how money works. The big failure of cryptocurrency is that it's a plan to make money act in a way that it doesn't act. That's not how it works. Money works a certain way in capitalism because it has to do that in order to facilitate the system. Rather than seeing how money works and trying to influence that to make it work in a way that is more positive, they decided to just make a new money and force that money to act in a way that money doesn't. I said right in 2013, this SJW bullshit was gonna fucking hurt us so much. Just watch, it's coming. Where are we now? Everything I warned about then was true. And all of these people just screamed homophobe. Because apparently you have to be a homophobe to understand that Marxism is a theory about class. That should be really obvious, but it's there. And the unending idiotic bickering of these people, repeatedly accusing me of being phobic of just about everything that exists on the goddamn planet, for no other reason to try to undermine me to build themselves up, because they are incapable of building themselves up. You know how many people I've seen come and go who attacked me, who weren't, like, 6 months to a year later, weren't even Marxists anymore? And whereas I've been consistently here longer than some of them have even been able to read. I've been studying Marx longer than most of these people have been alive. Right at the end of being a teenager, I started studying it. That's 22, 23 years ago. Most of these people who attack me were fucking teenagers who don't even have the first clue of what the real world is actually like because they've never seen it. And my studying was longer than their entire lifetime. For what? So they could drop off the face of the earth and not even be a part of this anymore. Out of absolutely everything that was done to try to destroy me over the years. From the old Marxist memes, the old Marxist memes Facebook page, not the one that currently exists, the one before it. Them doxing me and sending death threats to my family. Tim Sakata, which isn't his real name, but that was the name that he was using there, threatening to kill my mother. Doxing all of this for, like, what? Because they just didn't like me? That's pig work. I have always said, you don't like me, debate the idea. What's the point of even attacking me personally? And I've only ever attacked someone personally back when they've done it to me. Because in the end, none of them were able to. The day I recorded that impromptu debate with Our Socialism, I knew exactly what they were doing. They were going to invite me in there, gang up on me, and then say, oh, look, we destroyed his ideology. Oh, it was really cool. You should have been there. That's not what happened. I beat them. And then I recorded it to prove it. There is a reason why, in all of these debates that I still have recorded here, no one was able to beat me. Not because I'm a good debater, but because the side that I had chosen was correct. Of course, if you can't handle that, you can always just repeatedly mute me when I try to answer you, like a fucking coward. That RSTG squad, that goon squad from Haas, who went out there and fabricated an entire fake conversation of me hitting on a minor. And thankfully someone in their server had actually told me about it a few days before it happened, and I was able to get it out first. All of it completely faked. Just happened to be not long after Haas made his famous statement in my debate with him that black people don't matter. America, fuck yeah. Because not one of you can stand to me. I guarantee you, Caleb Moppin, if you can't mute me, Peter Coffin, anybody that I've already debated, ContraPoint thing, I could beat every single one of you. And that's why you've refused to do it. Although I've never actually challenged ContraPoints. The same reason that Vosh wanted me to go on a show, but then said he didn't want it to be a debate. He wanted it to be a discussion. Which I think is pretty foolish, considering that it would have just turned into a debate anyway. It's not that they can't win. It's that they have not been able to honestly, intellectually engage in ideas. I don't need anyone to like me personally. To tell you the truth, I don't even like me personally. And there are real people who've tried to do very real things and have done very real things. And you never hear about it. Because the online Marxist community doesn't talk to the offline Marxist community. I've tried. If only you people knew what Black Red Guard has actually done, the actual real life work, you'd be astounded. But you never hear a word of it. Because the people who engage in real struggle on the street, who are in danger, don't go around bragging about it because it'll get them thrown in prison. The people who sit there and then idiotically claimed that Comrade Number 3 didn't exist, even though I had played statements by him. Man, well, where's his YouTube channel? He doesn't have a fucking YouTube channel. Because he's working in the real world all the time. Doing things for the Navajo Nation. In real life. I don't have a life. That's why I did this. And I tried to get those people's stories out there. I tried to take what information the Arizona Rebellion would be willing to give me and put it out there so that people know. They were the ones who were tracking down the sex traffickers in Arizona. They were the ones I was backing up. They were the ones I was trying to help. And to this day, the one thing I'm happy about is that my continued insistence upon talking about Midnight Productions has managed to spread to other people talking about it. Everybody knew it was there. Everybody on the street in Arizona knew it was there. But people were afraid to say anything. And now, if you look, you Google Midnight Productions Arizona now, there's all these podcasts talking about it now. It's coming out now. Because I was willing to say something when nobody else was. And when I say nobody else, I mean nobody else in the online community was willing to talk about it. When the Bundes were slaughtered because they were investigating the human traffickers, nobody wanted to say anything and then claimed it didn't happen. I was the only one who did. I was the only one who did what was right. Not what was courageous, what was right. And what I have learned is that there are real people out there trying to do real things, but we never hear about it. Because all of that is shouted down by a bunch of narcissistic fucking man-children on the internet playing God. Or playing self-important douchebag. I don't do that. I very rarely ever talked about myself. This is the longest I've ever talked about myself in my entire career, because it was never about me. But I'm sorry, this is going to be an exception. This video actually is about me. I've tried to get a new message across to people. They don't want to listen. The one basic fact that anti-third worldists have never accepted is the fact that first world people don't want to fight. That is why they will go into the DSA every time. That is why they will turn around and they will say vote blue no matter who. Every time, without fail. Unless, of course, they're bowing at the altar of Dang. Another cult. Another know more about the man than the actual policies. By the way, in case you're interested, the Chinese government has announced that it's opening up space exploration and business to private entities. Because that's socialism, right? When you further create a market for private capitalists. But there's going to be some kind of mind-bending, dangist, reform kind of nonsense, delusional self-justification that's going to come along. And I'm going to tell you right now, Marxism is going to fall to Dangism. And it's going to fall because first world people don't want to do shit. They want to believe China's going to come in and save them one day. They don't want to actually do a revolution. And that's the common thread, isn't it? The DSA liberal types don't want to actually do revolution. They don't want struggle. They don't. Black Lives Matter struggled far more than any of them ever in their entire lives. And they're just liberal reformists. What the fuck is it saying when the liberals are more radical than you? What does that say? It's a systemic problem that no one will deal with. And it doesn't matter how much truth there is to what I say. People will still respond with insults. And then attack me personally because of what I've said. But not even make an attempt to disprove it. That's what this comment section is going to be filled with. People hating me. Because I didn't like their favorite online personality. Because I dared question the revisionism of Dang. Because I dared question first world people. Yeah, I know it sucks to live in the first world sometimes. I know, I live it. Sometimes. But that's not the point. That was never my point. My point was the fact that you won't do revolution. So what's the point of me preaching to a choir that doesn't listen? I've done the best that I can with what resources I have. I could have done more radical things had I had more radical resources. If I'd had the money to be able to travel, I would have been able to go and do some amazing things, run stories on things, get on the ground in certain places, but the money was just never there. That never exceeded about $250 a month, and right now it's hovering at about $100. But $120,000 a year has to go to ContraPoints, so she can buy more designer clothes. and pathetic low-life grifters like the Sorbosh. That's fine. I'm not telling you where to put your money. But all I have ever asked was $1 a month from people who watch this channel. $1. You'll lose that in your couch in a week. That was it. And that would have been more than enough. 500 views, $500 a month would have been enough for me to do some pretty amazing things. I did the best with what I had. I researched the best that I had without having a formal education from a richy rich family. And I think I did a pretty good job despite that. I think I did a pretty good job despite my actual level of formal education. But people don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear any analysis that I give that has been repeatedly proven to be correct. They want someone to blindly worship, or someone to jerk off their national identity as Americans. Because if Americans aren't revolutionary, then you know goddamn well Canadians aren't either. Canadians are less revolutionary than Americans are. We are the epitome of sellout. Because of all the reforms that we're starting not to get. And that's another point. People like to me, yeah, but they're undoing so many of the reforms. Yeah. And where's your radicalization as a result? Nowhere. Because you're not going to find it from you. You are going to find it from the people on the street. Those lumpen proletarian pieces of garbage that Marx called garbage and that Caleb Maupin calls garbage, worthless drug addicts and people who are worth nothing, which is really, really ironic coming from a piece of fucking shit like him. Some an abusive, manipulative person like him. The epitome of narcissism. And all these people who are going to get angry at me for saying this are the same ones that are just going to turn around and support the DSA moderate wing of fascism garbage. They're never going to pick up a gun a day in their lives. Maybe to go target shooting. But they're not going to do the thing that they keep saying that they are going to do. And they have been saying that they are going to do for over a century and not done it. And have no, and whose only explanation is, oh well, the people don't want to join it. Yeah, that's the point. That's the point that I've been making all this time. Reorientate strategy to those who will fight. Instead of doing your liberal bourgeois bullshit, try looking at some of the lumpen as a potential force. One of the failures of the RCP, the Bobavakian RCP, is that it never managed to accomplish anything but raise money. And they are damn good at raising money. And even when they had the split off of those who didn't want to deal with Bobavakian anymore, who followed Mike Eli into Kasama Project, what was the great revelation by Mike Eli in the direction that organization had to take before Mike Eli eventually quit? And he was right to quit. He was right to do so. Essentially just go to the most advanced sections of the workers, the head of the most bourgeois unions, convince them to join you. Because the only thing Bobavakian was trying to do was trying to convince everybody to just follow him. Which also didn't work. Which is really funny because Lenin had always said to go to the lower and deeper section of the proletariat to find a revolutionary force, and Mike Eli did the opposite. The Kasama Project, now that place is nothing more than trots and sock dams. Because that's what it produces. That's what the first world produces. It ended up being the exact same thing. Because it's the first world, and nobody will acknowledge the material conditions of the first world despite being materialist. And what was Mike Eli's great rebuttal to me over it? How could you support that totalitarian hellhole, North Korea? That's the best you got? That's the best he was ever able to do. All those decades in struggle, and that was the best criticism that he could come up with against me. It feels like here's the time that my health is getting worse. Not just my physical health, but my mental health is getting worse. I had actually hoped that my mental health was going to get better over time, but it hasn't. It's gotten worse. And I can't keep this up anymore. I can't keep doing what I'm doing. I'm just too tired. I'm exhausted physically and mentally, despite the fact that I've lost 43 pounds as of this recording. You know, about 20 kilos. In terms of weight, I've lost a lot of weight. But I'm starting to reach that point where The Simpsons should have stopped before it started to suck. I think, given how slow I have been, it's time to give it up. I just don't have the strength to do it anymore. Maybe I'm just getting old. But I've already dedicated a decade and a half of my life to it. And when I say my life, yeah, my life. As in, it's cost me jobs. It's harmed relationships with family. It has financially killed me. But I kept doing it, not even for me, because I was the one bearing the brunt of all the negativity. All the bad things that happened were on me, not on anyone else. And I kept going because it was the right thing to do, and I don't have that strength anymore. All that's left now is people who want to scream insults, make false allegations in order to tear other people down. And I can't do it anymore. I'm just too tired. I've tried too hard for too long to accomplish too little. It's time for me to stop. It's time for me to die a hero before I become the villain. I think that's where it needs to go. Because honestly, from here out, I think the work I do is just going to get worse. Because not only is my heart not into it, my heart just can't get into it anymore. Now, I still owe you some documentaries, and I will fulfill those documentaries. I'm not going to completely retire. I'm just going to slow down until I reach my own pace. I'll make videos when I feel like it. When I have the strength to do it. Not constantly trying to meet a deadline and then doing a half-assed job just to meet that deadline. Now, as a result, because I'm going to slow down so significantly, I'll understand that many of the few people who do support me on Patreon will probably stop doing so. And I understand. Because what it is that you signed up for, I will no longer be delivering. So I perfectly understand. I would ask that everyone stay and continue to fund as much as they have. I would ask some people to come and give more. Those who have never given anything before. $1 a month. I wouldn't blame you if you stopped donating. Because what it is I promise to give, I'm not giving. But I would ask that you stay around for this new era and continue to keep me afloat in trying to do all of this. I'm going to significantly slow down, but not stop. Not fully stop. There's just going to be far less videos. I have to do them at a pace that I can handle, and a pace that'll allow me to actually do a good job of it, rather than the simple news packages I do now. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and that I'm not really going away. I'm just not going to be around as much. I've still got theory to share. I've still got ideas to give and things to analyze. But it's just not going to be the same as it was. And maybe I'm just turning into an old man. Who knows? God knows my hair is acknowledging how old I'm getting. But it's gonna be what it's gonna be. Just acknowledge that there's going to be some changes, and that I will not be as active as I have been, but I will still be doing what I believe is right overall. And if you are a patron, I would hope that you would remain on, although I wouldn't blame you if you did stop. So I hope this video hasn't been too much for you, because God knows I'm going to get attacked for the next 20 years over it. And I really do mean it. Thank you for watching. I mean it. Thank you for the rate, comment, subscribe, and share on various social media. Because Lord knows not many people really do. So to you, those who have always been very loyal in who I am, what I am, and all this, I'm not turning on you. I'm just slowing down, because that's just the reality that I find myself in. And know that I'm going to keep making videos, and I am going to continue doing commentary on social phenomena that exist. It's just going to be at a much slower pace. So this isn't goodbye. It's just letting you know that I'm going to be late.